Make a good waiter, wouldn't it? Touch it with your mouth.
You would.
Looks like they're on the floor, you know, so we'll see you.
No, I do Meals on Wheels, and then my son has his birthday treat at school, and I go to the teachers, because my little one.
You prepared stuff.
I did, yes. Yeah, I was just waiting.
Fun play.
You guys gonna start wearing big youth shirts one of these days?
Well,
No, it's tomorrow.
Baker Hughes and GE Company is what our new logo is.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I only had one people, somebody already heard the same.
Only 4 letters?
I'm sorry.
E-H-G-E. That's what we are now.
Yeah, everybody got a paper copy. The staples might not be long enough, so you have a little binder clip to start falling apart. Oh, sorry.
Nancy.
We will make it.
Well,
No.
big letters.
That's right,
Big letters.
right. We appreciate that.
Are we recording this? Do we record this? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta turn it on.
I need every syllable of hope,
We are recording.
every utterance.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay, are we ready, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
So it's 6:30. Well, first, thanks for understanding last night, I appreciate it. David, just got in a little bit ago, he had to be out today, so it's just one of those things. We had a good groundbreaking this afternoon, for this morning, so it's interesting.
Good.
So on your normal study session schedule, obviously that's going to change. My goal tonight with David, and I'll be remembering David Green with my last, so for simplicity, I'm going to call Dave on my right, David on my left. The D1, D2. September 12th, I'm looking at the study session, so really tonight, we're going to focus on the general fund items for Public Works. And when we last met, after the last board meeting, I showed you some estimated revenues, and we said those numbers will fluctuate as we go through the rest of the year. But we'll only have David drive the computer tonight, Dave. And what we'll do is we'll skip over this, we'll go down to expenditures, and we'll start with buildings and grounds.
Okay, so you're doing public works out of general fund.
General fund public works is where we start tonight, then we'll see how far we go.
We have page numbers. Oh, there's no page numbers.
It's gonna be after admin, right after admin. If you go to expenditures, it should be legislative, judicial, executive, admin, buildings and grounds, basically.
I think it's 4 pages in. It's kind of a rust colored header. Well, I guess they're all rust colored headers, so never mind. It's the way they're trying to be beautiful.
So as we start, a number of weeks ago, I sent out all the department head worksheets that Dave provided. They've been working on mostly the 2018 estimates, but also a little bit on their 2017 projections, so to speak. The year-to-date updated by Dave when we close out the financial on a monthly basis. Well, you'll see those green highlights. I know those numbers. It's my estimate based upon my knowledge of the budget. They don't always, it's based upon a percentage, is what Dave puts in as a calculation. 75% of the year, whatever case, kind of like their financials. With some expenditure, like our capital projects, like we did our chip sealing, so I modified the number because we're not adding more money to that line item as an example. This will be closed out. So that explains to the highlights a little bit. What I've talked to David about, mostly David, is This year, I'd like to work on simplifying the budget a little bit more so it's more transparent. This budget has always been just set up this way for whatever reason. What I'm trying to do as we go through this, and Dave will help explain, we have different departments for admin, rec, police, and seniors. Public Works is all over the board. They're in the enterprise fund, cemetery fund, and they have all these sub-funds. What we're trying to do is get your input on is building essentially a public works department fund in the general fund and combining some of these other ones into that. Okay, so as we go through, we want to explain that. It's going to look different, but I think at the end, in the long run, it's going to track easier. One good example is their salaries and benefits. It's spread out by percent all across the board. Sometimes those percentages get screwed up. We're trying to get to where the percentages for administrative items and salary benefits come out of the public works department, just like it does at the police department and the rec department,
In the general fund.
in the general fund. And then it would have an allocation, because it has to, a small portion out of the enterprise fund for water and sewer.
So this is gonna be all public works is gonna be in,
But what we're gonna go through this, we didn't change anything, it'll basically, Dave, you help me explain this?
Excuse me, so essentially what you would see is, as you see, we have buildings and grounds right here, let's use this as an example. That would then say, in a separate section, it would say Public Works. And we put the stuff that's currently being allocated to the different departments in Public Works, like streets and parks and stuff like that, that aren't directly attributable to that. So wages, for instance, would go under Public Works, and it would no longer show up in the streets and the parks part of that. However, with the streets and the parks part of that, we're still gonna keep those departments, but put the stuff that's directly attributed to it. So if there's a crack ceiling, that would stay within the streets. If there's fertilizer, it would stay within the parks. We're just talking about all the stuff that gets allocated out about 8 different ways.
like the admin stuff.
They would be,
Yeah.
they'd be more like operational, because that's what they are. Streets, parks, they're operational funds. Buildings and grounds are operational funds. At the end of the day, all of public works salary benefits come out, other than water and sewer museum, the general fund. So why do you have to look all over these different funds to total that number up for what you get paid? That's what we're trying to get to.
Are you gonna have a legend that dictates where they come from because of the enterprise funds? Because they have to be, do they have to be notated separately, just like they have to be run separately?
So we'd still be tracking it versus general water, sewer, which are your enterprise funds. That really wouldn't change how that's tracked. So we'd still have things allocated 3 ways, instead of having things allocated maybe 6 ways.
Okay, okay. So that we still have to have them separated out, it just won't be as complex.
Right, it's gonna simplify think of it as simplifying the general funds only. And-
Okay,
And the
okay.
water and sewer don't change, they're still gonna be handled the exact same way. But we're just trying to simplify the general funds, so that
I
those
see.
departments, so that when you look down, there's some things that like, for instance, right here, where you see $24 worth of unemployment tax. Well, if you wanna find unemployment, you've gotta look 8 different things and add all those up to figure out what one unemployment is. And so that would help
Oh.
be able to simplify within that general fund.
That'll certainly make it easier. I mean, being a layperson myself, I'm not used to doing professional auditing or bookkeeping, so, yeah, that, I appreciate everything you simplify and make it easier for guys like me.
Yeah.
That helps.
And I think what we're trying to do is, when Dave and I talked, not to go back in time, I'm going to, for example, when I was chief in St. Mary's, and they gave me the budget, police chief, it was just operational. All the employees' salaries and benefits, the town's insurance, all the IT services, they came out of basically an operations fund. So the board had a snapshot as where we at on the salaries this year. And if you want to break down what's public works, we can still do that, but it won't be on the budget, it'll be for you guys to have separately if you want.
It's like Public Works will be a lump sum.
Because right now, you don't track in the budget how much Dave Wright makes. You look at what admin pays, what public works, or what police department. So, but those are different spreadsheets that they provided for one. So,
They're only needed at budget time anyway.
And you generally give it to us broken up, broken down in different times anyway, so we do have that information available.
And all this would translate through to the financials that you see every month, because this is set up to mirror those financial statements. So we would be making those changes within those monthly financials, which therefore makes the reporting on a monthly basis easier for you guys to figure out where everything is, and you have to go for a month or something.
Go through each page.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it might actually end up shortening the financials from where they're at to, get some more manageable things. As you guys know, it's hard to report on this page.
Absolutely.
right now, it's about the same kind of thing, off that tab, like a quarter or a third of the nice. Special revenue funds don't remain competitive, they're all across, that doesn't really know, so. Do you want to just, before we go any further, do you want to kind of summarize to the board how we're going to look at putting these together?
Yeah. The other thing that we're looking at as well is, for instance, building and ground. That's going to take, I think it really takes Public Works Department and this building here. Yeah, something is talking about consolidating stuff that it could be used to track all the buildings. So it could also be used to track the community center / senior center. It's really all it's tracking is repairs and maintenance for those. And then we would eliminate another section if we brought those together. We would still have the senior department with all that stuff separate, self-recreation and all that. It's just this section here.
Sort of as a subsection.
It would all just go into that building and grounds. And then, so you can see there's not a lot of activity here. But then, for instance, if you saw repairs and maintenance, and we needed to know what was included in that repairs and maintenance and what building it went to, we can always pull schedules out of the general ledger to be able to tell you what those are. But this way we consolidate all of the buildings that are within the town into one section, so you can see all the repairs that are going on, and those are good schedule as well. So for instance, this senior section would still remain intact the way you see it here. That wouldn't change at all. We'd just be talking about simply this
Just the building.
community center building part.
Okay.
And then you have like utilities reported together. Like I said, we can still break those out if it ever becomes a question. But sometimes things get broken out so far that it doesn't necessarily become helpful.
Now, our upcoming senior center project, that, putting all that under one heading, that wouldn't make it harder to read, harder to understand? Because we're gonna be getting DOLA money, things like that, we're gonna have a lot of outlays.
The outlay is really gonna go through one item, no matter where we put it, capital outlay for that senior center. Everything that's gonna go into that, all the construction, is gonna go into that capital outlay line item, so that we can easily figure out what that is as well. And that would be that way regardless of if we fund this or not, we'd still get our capital outlay line item, so we can track the total dollar amount of that, total amount.
I'm trying to,
The ledger on for specific.
It would just logically be easier to find it
Yes.
than build it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
we have a mixture of both. We have buildings and grounds, it's supposed to be all town buildings, but it's not. The community center separate. Museum and library, Dave, I talked, that we should just track them differently. Especially the library opportunity. The buildings and grounds should be, either you do it all or nothing, in my opinion. Every facility is their own fund, you just increase funds within the general fund, or you put other buildings and grounds. That's just an idea that we have.
You say we would be putting on the library and bring them under that revenue ground?
No.
Probably not the library for sure, because they have their own special
The
revenue.
museum does,
None of the museum does it.
we pretty much take care of it.
Yeah.
Their
We
budget,
do.
their budget's pretty small. And we could, I mean, that's not a special revenue district for it.
It looks like there's, there's the museum and that's what they have, so it could go into there if that's what you guys wanted to tracking under there as well, then that eliminates the museum section, because it all goes out of there.
Well, just the building portion, right?
Yeah, there's
Talking about the whole thing.
it's pretty basic, it's utilities and maintenance is all it is.
Yeah, so under that, it's really all building under the museum.
Security.
Yeah, security.
But you would just add a new line item under buildings and grounds, security, right?
Yeah, for security, yeah.
Yeah.
But under that utilities, it would all be under one utility, or maintenance repair would all be under one
Right.
maintenance repair.
Right.
Like I said, if there's any questions, so if maintenance repair gets big, we can always run the GL detail for it. And easily tell you what that goes to, so you still know what.
Where that's going, absolutely.
Pardon?
Sorry. It's still being tracked, it's just gonna look a lot prettier,
Well, it's gonna look different.
simpler.
One example someone told me is,
Yeah.
you know, personally, you set your food budget, you don't base your budget based upon what stores you buy. You base it. But it's kind of, maybe not the best analogy, but buildings and grounds is all the town facilities, so this, you may not know exactly how much we spent on the gas bill at the museum or at the, or the landscaping at town hall, but we can provide that information like Dave said, if you want.
In the near term, could we just change the header so it says all town buildings?
Yeah, I mean.
Just, so until we get used to looking at it, because I'm willing to, if it simplifies everything, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we can certainly find, those headers can be changed, it doesn't have to be the building and grounds, we can change it to whatever makes.
Because it's gonna take me a while to get used to it.
Well, underneath that, you can put in parentheses that it includes town hall, the museum, the rec center, senior center,
Yeah, we have more leeway on the budget, but on the financials, you guys would see,
right?
we're space limited, character limited.
Right, yeah,
So
yeah.
if we could put something that, yeah, we can wordsmith that, say whatever we needed to say, so that you can want to. And we're talking about doing all these changes at January 1st, so it wouldn't change that, what you see for the rest of the year. But at January 1st, we would then start fresh with the budget lined up and all that other stuff. And the stuff that has zero budget and zero entry to it wouldn't even show up on the financial statement, so that would help too.
And it's not gonna affect the audit in any way.
But anyway. In fact, for the audit, there's still, those things might be combined anyway,
Oh,
some of those things. Because our audit gets to be really, really
yeah.
condensed as far as the headers and descriptions. The other thing that we were looking at was taking some of the admin functions. So within like Public Works, you might have IT or something like that. Instead of trying to attribute those to, say, a park or a street or something that clearly, the park doesn't necessarily use IT, maybe just including those under administration and maybe kind of management and admin or whatever you want to call it, but doing that so that it doesn't have to be broken out further as well. So that these items such as, so like for instance, parks. So you just see what was attributable to the park itself. In this case, it might be weed control, sanitation, stuff like that would stay in the parks. But, yeah, I want to see a good example there.
For example, water fee to water fund. I mean, you're splitting that fee across all these different what I call public works funds. It should just go in the public works department, or the buildings and grounds, I should say, department. This is parks fund?
This one has to see parks.
Okay.
But yeah, so really what we're doing is just looking at allocations and how those might make more sense. So instead of trying to track it amongst some of these different public works departments, some of them might end up in the admin department as well. It's more of an administrative function.
IT is the best example, because we spread that out across even the water and sewer funds. The thing is even though they have different aspects like monitors and computers, IT is really managed by the front office through the server and through connecting point. So we're just trying to streamline a little bit, trying to simplify, if you will. So that's kind of the direction we're wanting to head with your permission, if we can. It's not
It'll
gonna
take me,
go.
it'll take me a little while to get used to it, I'll just
Yeah.
ask questions from time to time, but I'll get used to it.
I think the last one I've got down here was on the health and welfare, just moving, all that's in health and welfare is pest control and mosquitoes. So rather than having an entire new department for that, just moving that up into like parks or something like that, since parks already has weed control for the ditches and kind of maintains the outside, instead of having a separate department.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there, they could go into buildings and grounds, if it's grounds,
Sure, yeah, I mean, that's a good idea
That's what I was
too,
thinking,
but,
streets.
so.
yeah, I mean, there's, building and grounds probably makes sense, you're right, it's grounds, but.
Yeah, just annual spraying, and we call it pest abatement, we politically correct. Get rid of roads.
Hoping for it next week.
So really, that was all we had as far as the main changes that you would see here. When you sit down and read this, it will make it, at first, kind of shocking, but I think it'll help with reporting all the way around throughout the year and at budget time.
Well, and I like the idea of it all being in one place, because if you have someone, you know, in the neighborhood, go on our website and look up our budget, it's pretty tricky,
Right.
you know, like, it should be not. It should be pretty simple.
Okay, well, we'll start working on that, but you really won't see that until the final budget. When we combine those, that's okay with you guys.
So you haven't done any of that now?
No, not without the works director. It's going to look a lot different, especially with public works side. It's going to affect the rest of the budget. Well, you're used to breaking out public works and you're going to see a brand new public works department sub-fund, basically. So,
I just have a question on building and grounds. The salary is year-to-date 6,000 and end of year it's projected 41,000. We haven't combined and yet that's a big jump. Are you getting a raise, David?
They'll let me know about it, yeah. They forgot to show up.
Check the mail.
Evidently, I haven't done that for a couple of years.
I think you said that to the budget, like tracking.
I was looking at the very bottom on the totals, and that was going to be my question going forward.
Who actually need to charge that or not?
and that's why this is a prime example where we're trying to set the public works department fund, because in the salary spreadsheet, David, Todd, and the rest of the crew, they're allocated, and it's not all across the board, but it's 20% of all their salaries come out of buildings and grounds, 20% comes out of streets, 20%. And we're trying to get rid of that, because these percentages sometimes get screwed up. That's what
Okay.
happens.
So even though you haven't changed it?
If
then
you're way
gonna
under on
correct
this
it.
one, if you dig, you'll be way over on another one somewhere else.
Well,
Oh, okay.
so as far as their salaries, the way they're allocated right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be transferring the money from the different funds all into a public works fund. And so we'll see the water enterprise fund will transfer.
They have to stay. The water and sewer funds have to stay, just so that we have them to costs of those funds.
The
So we'll
enterprise
still
fund
have
are
those
separate.
entries in there that say salary and whatnot.
Yeah.
So we won't have but we'll have an entry in public works for all the salary. Okay.
Right now, the salaries that show up in buildings and grounds, parks, streets and highways, those are, all those monies will be taken and be put in the public works department. Then those funds will become more operational based. Unless you want to see those split out, but like Dave and I talked about, it's kind of silly because one day they go, for example, we have an allocation for the cemetery of say 10%. So but the guys can be up there for a week straight working on irrigation, whatever, so it's not a trail occasion.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of silly. But when I became manager, I asked Norman about that, she says, just because, this is what it's always been. I just thought it's time to kind of correct it, I think, correction.
I'm gonna wait until we get to the bottom of this, and then I have a question.
Okay. Well, we're gonna still do public works, general fund, buildings and grounds is the first one. So, don't look at the salary and the benefits, because we're basically crossing those. Well, in all seriousness, we're not increasing anything, we're just, what Dave is doing is just, for budgetary purposes for 2018, just making the same as 2017. We've added no increases in anything. That's your decision later on in the budget process. So basically, from recruitment down, which is operations, that's what David has submitted, his numbers for. And I'll turn over to David, but, when I looked down, pretty much sold them all.
Thank you. As you can see, there aren't any major increases in any of this, in the buildings and grounds as we start down through the list. The only one that we might make an adjustment to, and we don't show it in there right now, would be the ditch and well water assessment. Right now, we take all of our well water assessments for the GMS and WAS wells out of a water fund assessment.
In the enterprise fund?
In the enterprise fund. So that, we're looking at somewhere between $8,000 and $10,000 in assessments that go to the wells versus to the, that aren't attributed to the, to what we pay Central and deal with Central and that kind of thing, Northern Water. So, that's one category that I had debated, and Troy and I had talked about, the potential of moving about $10,000 into that line item to cover the GMS, the WAS, and Platteville ditch.
Platteville ditch utilization is specifically cemetery, right? Only cemetery?
Well, that's the only place we can use it right now.
Right.
Correct. But
we don't dare done the cemetery for those dues because there's not enough money over there. That's correct?
Typically, we've tried to tiptoe around the cemetery budget, yes.
Okay.
So, that is the only change that's not shown on here right now, would be that ditch well water assessment of, I'm saying right around 10 grand, because, that's where, those assessments come in.
That's Platteville and the wells?
Correct, yeah. So,
We're not renting water. We haven't rented water for a couple of years, have we?
you mean water for our use? No, we have not done that for a couple of years. And basically, this year, if you remember back in the spring, the board did approve us leasing a portion of our Platteville irrigating and milling ditch to Sarchet, yeah. And basically what that did was that fee basically covered our costs for our assessment.
We did?
Good. So, he's very interested in doing that again next year, and until we come to a point that we are able to, use that water ourselves somewhere else, I think we can show, because he's using it, we can show consumptive use. Because he's using it, he basically pays our dues, so we don't pay anything for what we do use at the cemetery. So it's a win-win situation. We're not making any money on it, but we're not losing any money on it either. But we actually are making money in the fact that we're showing consumptive use on that water, so we're not gonna lose the water rights.
So if we're doing, if we're gonna put the ditch and well water assessments on here, we're also gonna have to show that revenue stream from leasing out Plateau ditch water in this.
And this year, that line item did show in the water fund where those
Okay.
expenses were taken from. That the Sarchet payment was credited to the water fund assessments. So, David pulled that line item for me last week or 2 weeks ago when we were trying to figure out what was going on and what the value of that number was and what we would do there. So, but unless there's a specific item that jumps out at somebody, I don't have anything else specific on buildings and grounds.
At the very bottom, I did see this. Would somebody please explain to me the diversity of these numbers?
What do you mean?
The totals?
From 68,000 to 119,000.
Yes. In 2017, year-to-date, 30,000, projected 102.
I know that's not true. Another
I
formula.
was gonna say, is there something covering we don't know?
Isn't that what Kim was getting at salary and
Mm-hmm.
wages?
Salary and wages would
Yeah.
count that up.
But their salaries and wages change, it does.
But they don't change it that much, but yeah, there's some other numbers that haven't transferred properly somewhere.
That's what it would look like, yes.
I don't see anywhere else where it's jumping.
Like right now, there's no year-to-date utility, like a big number.
The numbers are the Yeah, you should enter it in and calculate it for yourself.
Well, I didn't take new math, so maybe it's something.
Something in white.
So right offhand, I can't give an answer as to
There's just a little bit here, a little bit there.
why that did what it did, but it certainly means that, the formulas need to be relooked at.
Because it shows 2018, 119,000,
Well, if you look at.
Yeah.
and it
Well,
projected 2017 is 102,000.
2016,
There's salary and wages for 32,000. House rental was 5,000.
all of these lighting things, some are example, 1,300 there, 1,200 there.
The biggest one is the utility.
And cleaning services. Yeah, so.
With health, dental, vision, are you transferring more of that from one area of responsibility to another to get that magnitude of increase? Or is there really that magnitude of increase in insurance?
It's a formula.
Yes, it's correlated to the salary jump.
Right.
Would make the health jump.
If you compare the last two columns there, they both show 119,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only difference is that last column, if we add that $10,000 ditch well assessment, it would show 129,000. So it's going to show a $10,000 increase from our proposed 17 budget to our proposed 18 budget.
With a 21-cent discrepancy.
I'll give you that. I think I've got 21 cents in my pocket, Mr. Mayor.
Then your water's gonna be reduced 10,000, that's what you paid out.
Well, yes,
Yeah, it's
when we
a
get
wash.
to, when we get to, it basically is a wash, but yes.
As far as these, all I just have to go through and recheck the formulas on all of them. Why I'm pulling up like that. I can find that answer right now, unfortunately.
No problem, as long as we're aware that I have a question. That's, I'm not gonna hold anybody to anything.
Where you have a question?
So on cleaning services, David,
Yes.
we're projected to go over budget. We went higher in 2016. Do we need more than that?
Well, that's a guessing thing again.
Right.
I didn't change that number, that's a percentage calculation, so it just depends on the rental of the units.
Oh.
Or, sorry, that's
No,
not town.
no,
hall.
this is just town hall, so this is a steady amount.
Oh, that's just down
Yeah.
It probably, you're right, Adrian, in that last year we were at almost $1,000 more. Our fees haven't gone up, so we probably should project that one at 11 or 11.5. So then that would be a total increase of, 1,500 there, so. Are there any other items that jump out at anybody? Don't look at the bottom line.
You sure you really wanna ask that? No, I don't see anything. Those bottom ones are the ones I was concerned about.
Okay. Is there something else, Adrian?
Yeah, M&R building,
Mm-hmm.
we budgeted for 10,000. We projected at 4,000.
Right. We had anticipated trying to do something with the break room. That didn't happen this year, so I'm hoping that we can do something with that this next year. We also were looking at some possible exterior, we've got some stucco repairs, some of those kind of things that could be done here in the town hall. And then I think the other stuff here on the property is gonna be a discussion for the public facilities fund, so.
On this, on that 10,000, I think the kitchen is a priority, but at some point in this process, I think it's time, and especially at the back doors, some of that stuff goes deteriorating. I haven't checked the rest of the building, but it really needs to be power washed and repainted. It's been 20 years, and it's never, to my knowledge, been touched. I've been here almost 14. So I'm sure it wasn't painted the first 6 years. I just think it's time. Just to make it, I'm not talking about changing any colors or anything, but that'd be your decision.
You have to change the fence.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, let this on fly, Adrian.
The next one today will be streets and highways, which is about 4 or 5 down. After the police, past crossing guard. So if you clipboard is streets and highways, starting with basically supplies. No, recruitment, sorry. Yeah. There you go.
One of the biggest differences in this one is on the second page of streets and highways is under maintenance of condition. We went ahead and bumped that up to 100,000 versus 60,000 for the patching, because we always seem to go over that number. We left 25,000 in there for crack sealing, because that's what we've done the last couple of years. We're looking at the possibility of trying, we're waiting on some chip seal numbers right now from anyone, did it? Okay. We spent 250, or we had 250,000 in the streets fund last year to do the chip sealing that we had done so far. We're looking at approximately 250 to 275. Yes, do you remember what those numbers were? Because I didn't see them.
I asked David to get an estimate for chip sealing Reed subdivision, because it's the only one that hasn't done anything besides patching. It came in at 89,000.
Does that include Garden and Schultz?
I didn't see that on the list.
Okay. So, I don't know what the board wants to put in there for that number for chip seal. They had told me they thought it looked, we were talking about Reed subdivision, So that's David Court, Reed Road, Melody, Olive Lane, River Road, not
Cul-de-sacs.
River Street. All the cul-de-sacs, Catherine and Shirley, and then going up also into Garden Court and Schultz, which are north off of 32 and a half of
Are they showing some stress?
So we would be looking to crack seal all those areas prior to the chip seal. So part of the increase in the maintenance of condition from 60,000 to 100,000 is the probability that we would have to use another 5,000 to 10,000 of that maintenance of condition money for crack sealing, but we're not 100% sure how much crack sealing we're gonna have to do. So we want to leave our $25,000 annual allotment for crack sealing in the budget, but we may use a little bit more just to make sure we get those neighborhoods completely crack sealed before we go in and chip them. So,
And then you're gonna coat on top like we did?
yes, whenever we bid the chip seal, we always bid it with a fog coat on top. That's another nickel a square foot or something like that is what it costs us.
Money well spent.
But it gives you that nice pristine black, and there is some benefit to locking the chips in. There's not as much benefit to locking the chips in as it is the visual that you didn't just take a paved road and make a gravel road. It still looks like a paved road when you get done with it. And then the little bit of locking it in. So if that number, Troy said that number came in less than 100,000, but if it doesn't include those other two streets up there, I would say we need to probably put 125 or 150 in that line item.
I do just want to add to the board.
In what line item?
Right there where it says chip seal project, we do not have a number in there, and that's why the bottom line is so different between last year and this year. It's $250,000 difference.
I do want to let the board know that David has, and obviously this is his responsibility, he has a lot of capital projects to his request. Most of those I took out and put them in a separate capital project for a different discussion. If you want to do that as we go through the budget, that's perfectly fine, but I need to let you know that this budget right now, based upon the way it's set, is fairly balanced. The estimated revenues and the estimated expenditures are right there, based upon these estimates. So if you add significant numbers, at the end, you're gonna see we're going over revenues. So I just want to bring that up right now.
You're saying, okay, so we're revenue, you're saying we're revenue neutral? I mean,
We're pretty close as far as, I've been working on all the year-to-date and projections with Dave and Mary and Carl and everyone else. And based on that input of those estimates for next year and the revenues coming in, it's about even, about 2.2 million.
Does that include the earmarks though?
No, it does not. That's why I didn't know how you wanted to do it. If you want to talk about this as we go, or do you want to have a separate meeting to talk about, here's the capital projects, like chip sealing, and here's potential funding sources. You know, the balance as far as revenues and general operation and expenditures are basically balanced. But we have 500,000 in savings, we have 200 in the call-out trust for something. I mean, I don't know how you want to do that. To me, that was simpler. Because right now, when we just go through and we add a couple $100,000 here and there,
It's hard to keep track of all the
you
different
don't
projects.
crack it, plus at the end of the day, at the end of the day, it's like, well, we're over budget, so let's take some money out. You don't know where you put the money in to begin with, because too much time goes by. So that's just my suggestion.
But this 100,000 includes Reed subdivision without the Schultz money?
The 100,000 up above?
Is that maintenance condition?
No, that's just patching throughout town, and it will be some patching in Reed, yes, but it does not.
It does not include.
It does not
the chip
include
seal
any
at
chip
all.
seal.
Okay,
No limit.
okay. I don't want that. Okay.
So,
Are we getting maybe a little overly ambitious on the chip sealing?
No, I'm a strong proponent of chip sealing, because I think
I'm just talking about in the near term, if we're revenue neutral, this would be the first time in quite a while we haven't had added to the unrestricted fund balance.
well, that's what I like to get to.
We're spending what we're spending what we're making, and I'm,
The revenues right now are simply not going down. Oil and gas is down. Our sales tax is going actually up a little bit, but the property tax is tiny bit. So if you look at the general fund solely, I feel we don't talk about capital projects, the big projects, until we go through the whole fund one time. That's my
I would like to hear everything first.
And then we go back, and it'll be, like I told David, it'll be a separate spreadsheet. Here's chip sealing Old Town, congestion, general fund, you know. Sewer lagoon screen, $350,000, suggestion, Colorado Trust, matching grant and DOLA, stuff like that. That's how I want to deal with that this year, because I think it's easier to track.
I don't disagree.
Yep.
So,
I thought that's what we did last year as part of that big chip seal project. I thought that was a capital improvement.
yeah,
We discussed that as capital improvement.
we came back, and this year, I don't want to, it could be a capital project, I just don't want it to come out of the general fund quite yet, until you see the overall picture of what I'm asking.
okay. So you're proposing just leaving this blank
For right now,
and saving it for the end?
for right now, please.
Okay, okay. I don't have a problem with that.
So I remember last year we had a conversation that we were like 300,000 over budget, and we didn't have a balanced budget. And we had a long conversation, it's like, well, if you tell the community we're dipping into savings for a specific project, that's justifiable. So I just want to get that step, and let's do this first.
Okay.
Sorry, Dave.
Okay.
Dude, just one, so. Is there anything else jumping out at anybody on the streets and highways?
But, Troy, to just follow up on what you were saying, this budget's very conservative, correct?
I'm watching.
I mean, I know, so we could have the money.
We could, but that's why this year I'm putting capital projects toward the end of the budget process, because I want to see what comes in September and, you know, not quite October, but I want to see what the revenue's coming. Our sales tax, like Dave was saying, our sales tax last few months has been really nice. It's been over 60,000, which is way above that.
Oh, but, yeah.
It was lower the first of the year, too.
But it's awful low the first year. It goes from like 29,000 to 68,000.
All that food I'm going to get.
But, and we'll go back, when we meet, probably in 2 weeks, we'll go back to the revenues, hope, and I'll give you an update and see what those forecasts are. And if you feel like I'm budgeting too little for like sales tax, for example, then we can have a conversation, definitely.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the way you're being conservative, because that's good.
Well, and if
I like
you're conservative, and we basically say, well, we're gonna pull from Colorado Trust to do this project, and find out at the end of the year we didn't need to do that, or we put the money right back in Colorado Trust.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with being conservative.
And that's kind of how we built it. There's $500,000 of general fund money that was moved to Colorado Trust, just the half.
Well, and this is just projection, we don't know what next year's gonna do.
Yeah, we're starting a little early this year, because we're going to have to
Yeah.
meet again next month, obviously, when the numbers are close, so.
So, David, the sign,
Mm-hmm.
cut it in half, what is that? Is that those
Part
signs?
of that is, the board had approved the new street signs earlier this year, I want to say in April. And we've just, it's all on me that they haven't been ordered yet, because I've just been tied up with other stuff, and I keep thinking, oh, I'll get to that next week, I'll get to that next week. We're still anticipating going ahead and ordering those and expending that full 10,000 this year.
And that will cover all the streets?
That should cover every intersection in town, the new black and white signs that
Yeah.
are more old school looking. Plus, we think that will cover most of the main intersections up Main Street with a new old-fashioned signpost.
We get black roll.
With a black kind of wrought iron look almost, with the little curly Qs on them holding the signs out. We're hoping that I think I can get 10 of the signposts. I'm trying to work a deal to get all 13 of them, because we've got 13 intersections on Main Street to get done. So, we're in the process of doing that right now. But then all of our signs will be updated and new, so I wouldn't anticipate as much sign replacement and that kind of thing that we would potentially have. Part of the 5,000 that's in there would potentially be used towards some of those radar-type signs, either for Sturkle or by the schools or out on 32 and a half, depending on what the board decides. $5,000 will not cover all of I think they're about $3,000 a piece. So, but we were looking at potentially pulling some of those funds out of another area as well for the signs, but we're not. That's still.
Did you replace the signs on Marion that were sun bleached for the diagonal parking?
No, we striped Marion so they would know to diagonal park and
And then you just pulled them down? Okay. I hadn't paid attention about the
People had
signs.
pulled into them, hit them with their bumpers, people
Yes.
had backed into them and everything else. So we spent the money last year to stripe that.
Yeah, the striping looks great, I just didn't know.
And then we just got rid of those signs.
Okay.
That way, so.
Just pull, just look horrible.
They did.
Under public works capital items, CMAX, and then other public works capital items, not CMAX. You got CMAX in 2017, budget.
Well, the other public works capital items in the streets and highways is just if we need, a piece for a plow or a mower or something like that. And then, for some reason, I'm not seeing the cement one.
Farther up,
Yes,
right under streets, we have.
Okay, cement. And the 15,000, that is, we just, Troy got approval for us to put in for part of the grant for next year for a new public works vehicle. So that 15,000 will cover the new vehicle, and should cover putting the decals on it, safety lights, that kind of stuff.
So this is really more CMAX vehicle from here.
Public Works didn't get one this year. Police Department did, but Public Works didn't.
They're
And
talking,
then you got it in 2017? Gotcha.
Yeah. It's a year behind, so next summer if we get it, that's why it's budgeted next year. Hopefully, knock on wood, we'll actually get it.
Actually take delivery of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about a year process with the federal highway.
You're welcome. Any other questions there on streets and highways?
The only other thing I want to bring up, if I may, David, is the very last line item, is land lease UP. They just change that whenever they want to, we don't have to say so. That's for Front Street, we have to lease Front Street, until it curves past Rome over by Old Castle and it curves back over there by Craig's place. Met last week with, I talked to the mayor about it, they're wanting to close County Road 30 and signalize basically with the traffic safety arms 34. They have funds approved up north by Gilchrist to do a signalized arm, like Fort Lupton. But they're gonna close that intersection as well, but they will use that funds in Platteville 34, which makes sense.
Eventually that's gonna come through.
Eventually, in about year 28.
Gotta plan ahead.
I know, there's just no money for it, but that's on the access control plan, this bill. But what I'm getting at is, what I want to talk to UP about is, in exchange for doing that, CDOT's willing to basically give us $1 million to apply for a grant to build a new South Front Street. Because CDOT said when he closed 30 has to have another access route. So it really can't go south to 28, it's gonna go north to 32.
So your grandma gets a new road. Isn't that your grandma? Salmarka? No? Okay. I thought it was one of your relatives. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're related to most of the people.
Budget's not over, your grandma might still get it.
The road itself is gonna be a different topic or conversation, but what I'm getting at is part of the agreement with UP is I think they should just waive this. Because what's going on with CDOT is they're making the deal on these closures in exchange for waiving these right-of-way fees. So I can't, I'm gonna budget 7,500, or David budgets 7,500, but we may be able to get out of that depending on the agreement with UP, that's the amount.
We can do a future waiving of, tunnel under their railroad track.
Doing what?
We're gonna have to bore under that railroad track.
No.
eventually.
Yeah,
They
maybe.
don't want a chunk of money for that, so.
I'm not sure what those permitting costs, do you, David?
Not off the top of my head, but they're not cheap.
Well, interesting enough, I met CDOT's representative of UP, correspondence basically, whoever his title may be. He said, when you deal with UP, call me first, because he's got good connections. So we'll see. I just want to throw that out there, that may change, that's why I highlighted it a little bit. All right, health and welfare, we kind of talked about already, but,
We left this one exactly the same amount. I don't anticipate much of an increase, if any. They've held the line the last 3 years, dollars-wise, for our mosquito control fogging. We didn't do anything with pest abatement this year, but I anticipate that we potentially will have a couple of spots next year.
Is that prairie dogs? Is that what we're talking
Yes,
about?
sir.
Okay.
For the most part. So,
And where were you talking about moving this to? Park?
it would just go under probably buildings and
Buildings,
grounds.
okay.
So, and then under parks, there again, we've held the line pretty
I think
close.
we skip sanitation,
Oh,
right above health and welfare.
well, I don't have anything to do with that one.
I'll just get out of the way real quick. It's a pass-through with refuse collection because of the fees recently with PNC. I just did a quick calculation and increased to $8,000. So what we'll do is we'll receive this and then we'll pay it out in expenditures. And then cleanup days, David, this is really yours, but it's, if you look at the last couple of years, for last year and then this year, it's really, I don't know, unless you just, I'm not sure what to do, unless you just do away with it. Is that the cost of the roll-offs?
Basically, most of that's the cost for the roll-offs. The projected for this year will go up, well, I guess the projected for this year is at the 9,000, so, yeah, because we'll have leap and limb day, so we may have a little bit of expense out there, but not much, because we end up with one roll-off out there that we end up with a little bit of extra, and not necessarily from the community as a whole, but we end up filling it up with some miscellaneous stuff as we're out there working on items. And typically what happens is, part of the expense that goes into that is because the guys are working straight through and they're working on site, we go ahead and buy lunch for them while they're out there and that kind of thing. So, there'll be a little bit of, expense involved with that, but, we've been at $5 an axle for several years.
I think that's the way it
you know, most of the people that understand what the cost of running up to the dump is in time, in fuel, and what their costs at the landfill are themselves. I mean, Darrell Phillips brings a truck and he's got 13 properties in town or something like that, so he pulls in with a single axle dually dump truck full of mattresses. He fills a roll-off, and normally that would be a $5 charge. Well, I've told Darrell, I said, I'm gonna charge you 10 times, so we get him for $50 when he pulls in there, and it still costs us $350 to dump a roll-off. And so, you know, if he went up to the landfill with that, that'd be a $200 load, not to mention 2 hours on the road and the fuel, you know? So, he knows he's getting a bargain when I only charge him $50 for that one. So we have when we first started I think it was 4 years ago that we started collecting $5 an axle.
I think that's right.
You know, we had people kind of pitch a fit initially about that, but now I still have people pull up and try to hand us cash, even though for the last 3 years, we've been doing it on a signature basis. They fill out what their address is and they sign that they're accepting that we're gonna add $5 for each load, for each axle to their utility bill. So that we're not dealing with cash out on site, we're not having to, you know, but hardly anybody says anything about it. I even have people that bring us, you know, we're not taking the cans of paint anymore because, Weld County won't let us take the chemicals anymore. They won't let us bring them in bulk to them anymore, so we can't accept them because we don't have anything to get rid of them at. But I had some people a year ago that were more than willing to pay the $5 to bring me 2 cans of paint, because I got it out of their garage, and they didn't have to go to Weld County with it. So, at this point, if we had a slight increase, if we did, I say slight, if we doubled the cost, if we went to $10 an axle, I don't think that would be unreasonable, number one, and number two, we'll get a little bit of squawking next spring when we do it, but I don't think we're gonna get much.
How well is into this fall?
I didn't look at the numbers, Steve, so I don't remember exactly. I mean, we get quite a few people, but we can run it with less guys, so we can run it with 2 public works guys out there. One keeping an eye on the pile to make sure we're only getting leaf and limbs in the pile that are burnable, and then, one guy that's getting the signatures and making sure that we're, able to bill everybody that comes out there for it. I would say it's probably somewhere between 60 and 70% of the number of customers, and it depends on the fall, because if the leaves haven't come off the trees yet by the time we do it, then I'm gonna get phone calls for 3 weeks afterwards, hey David, can I bring my stuff out? Excuse me, and we try to accommodate people. We don't just slam the door and say, no, there's no way you can do that. If they're willing to work with us and find a time when I can break somebody free to have them out there, I tell them to come in and they pay their money at town hall, they bring a receipt with them, and then they can bring their load of limbs or whatever out there and just throw it on the pile.
We had that extra day or two where we accepted.
Yep.
Is that notated on here?
We didn't charge for that.
Right, but we had to pay. It cost the town money to do that. Was there any extraneous charges to the town? Or was that just simply limbs and leaves?
That was strictly limbs only that we
Limbs
took
only,
at that
okay.
time. Yeah, so.
So we only incurred labor?
Correct. Yep. And typically, this, the $9,000 does not include any labor.
No.
That is strictly the costs associated with cleanup days.
Okay.
So,
I think it's a great service to keep the town clean and
aside from labor, yeah.
I think it's a great service, and I'd be willing to pay
Yeah.
$20 an axle.
Yeah.
I think when we get to that point next year, there.
Hey, 30. He told me it was gonna be, he told me it'd be $50, I'd still come.
I was gonna say,
For sure, one of them.
Mr. Cowper does a great job of making sure he gets his money's worth in the truck and trailer when he goes.
Well, yeah, and it helps keep the community clean. Yeah.
So,
Okay, so I'll make a note of the revenues when we go back next month, talk about the final numbers, talk about increasing those,
okay,
because this is expenditures.
yeah.
So as far as changing the expenditures, you feel 9,000 is still appropriate for cleanup day?
I haven't heard anything about significant increases. At one point, we were over 500 a dumpster when we were getting rid of them, and we're back down into the 350 to 425 range. And part of that is sometimes we managed to put a little more in those dumpsters than we thought we had, so we were paying overweight charges.
Who picks up those dumpsters?
We've used McDonald Farms for the last several years.
Okay.
We had used Waste Management, and that's when we were over 500, and we went to McDonald Farms, and we're back in the 350 to 4.25 range, depending on how well we compact them.
Interesting, BNC has never considered doing roll-offs that way.
They don't have the time, they can't find the staff.
Well, I can
And
understand
they're-
both of us.
They're just doing, a lot of days when I visited with Brad and Carolyn, they're doing everything they can do just to keep up with what they've got right now. They can't add anything else to it, so.
Sure.
But, well, if there aren't any other comments.
So this line went from 160, well, let's see, we had 164 in 2016. So this one just fluctuated, where am I at? Fluctuated some. And we're going to bring it up $8,000 more than projected 2017.
Well, again,
So you're keeping it at the same budget level.
well, I'm gonna look at that though, maybe look at the numbers a little closer, and make sure the numbers are correct. I need to pass on the data. Yeah, we look at those general ledger numbers and then tell them what the increase of the board authorizing that happened in the This is past due. That 150 probably be off, be different.
Right, so if we increase that refuse collection to 150, there will be revenue that goes up to about 8,000 as well.
We clicked on that in the utility bills and the way these separate the trash payments and we just pay a monthly check to B&C. So it comes in and goes out.
And they do a wonderful job.
And B and C's increase starts January 1, right? Or did it
No.
start this month?
This month it started.
This month, okay. That isn't gonna, how does that affect us?
Oh.
It just changes the numbers, that's it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
The next one is parks, which you're about to start.
You're fine. We don't have any significant changes in parks, so unless there's something that somebody sees that I missed, or,
You don't have longevity changing this year, for next year? You don't? I thought you probably would have one or two people.
We haven't really addressed salaries on this yet, and that,
Okay, I was just thinking of longevity, that you're just including that in salaries?
yeah, it goes on, I've got it calculated under the step we have under salary. So we look at longevity, all that together. Salaries and benefits.
And we have to look at what employees that may, based on years of service, be bumped up to actually start longevity at 3 years, or they bump it to 5, 7.
Correct, that's what, that's,
we will have 2 employees that are moving into the 7-year category next year.
I figured you probably should have somebody changing because you've got some of those people that have been there. Okay, so this is sort of in a state, this will be in sort of a state of flux until we get that squared away, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Water fee to water fund, 3,900.
That's based on Rogers Farm, the 2 irrigation systems that were Rogers Farm and Rogers Farm Park, and down at Coronado Park.
Okay.
So,
That's paying them for the water.
that's paying them for the water to water the parks.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we had never assessed what the county uses for water off the system. And a couple of years ago, we talked about that when we increased the rates. Like the town should pay its own water bill. Right?
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
So we're instituting that this year.
Then Dave just makes transfers when we get there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we had the discussion at the end of 2016, the 3,900 anticipated for this year, 2017, and then we're anticipating a similar number for next year.
So nothing's been paid out to it, that's what, end of the year?
Either that or that's another entry that somehow didn't make the, I think that those are numbers that Mr. Green will be transferring.
Yeah, and so, I don't know right offhand, I know I did some stuff with the water fee to the water fund, and when I closed out August, I have to look at what account number it hit, but I know that I made those entries to catch it up for the year.
Okay, so it has been paid, it just doesn't show here.
Is Coronado using potable water?
Yes.
Okay.
That we don't have a well down.
We don't even have anything in any proximity to that?
Yeah, there's two. No. All of our, the furthest south WAS well that we have is Riverview Park. We don't have anything south of 66.
Okay. So that wasn't farm ground, or if it was irrigated with ditch water? Okay.
Probably. That's my best guess. It was built in the early 70s. I know that there's a ditch, that part of the Flatville ditch runs down 66 to get to Camp Farms and get to what's known as Flat River Farms. So I'm assuming at one point they probably pushed it down into that area as well, but I don't know that, so.
I have to say the parks have looked beautiful this year.
Thank you. Most people would agree with you, but I have some detractors, but for the most part, we've done okay.
You will never.
So, any other questions on parks before we move on? Community center / senior center. We increased the cleaning services because we're assuming that come April, we're gonna have a senior center to clean as well.
Those leaves vacuum and they'll clean.
Well, and depending on how things go, we may do that, but I mean, for the most part, I would expect that Andrea would be able to go in and
Oh, yeah.
keep it cleaned up, keep it mopped. We'll also have the community room over there. I don't
Oh,
know,
that's right, the fitness room.
you know, I don't know if we're gonna ask them to do that, or if that would fall on the people that are working the window there or what, so, but either way, we've added some costs there. Our open and close, we haven't had as many, so we kind of dropped that one a little bit. We'll see how things go after we, if we have the opportunity to renovate it some, then the use may go back up in the main community building portion.
It's not being rented out very much.
I shouldn't say it's not being rented out, but we haven't had as many open and closed situations with it.
Well, that has to do with alcohol. This one is alcohol.
Oh, okay.
And that's the best.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
true.
We'll look at those numbers.
So you're expecting utilities to be
I'm just doubling the size of the building,
okay, thanks.
so that's an estimate.
Oh.
No, you're fine.
We hope it doesn't quite double, because we're hoping we've got a little more efficient furnaces and air conditioners in the new part, but
Yeah, we won't know until 2019 goes through those things on the landfill.
On the cleaning over there, do we provide the supplies?
yes.
Okay, so we are going to have to buy some more machinery then, are we not? Because aren't we gonna have carpeting?
We'll have carpeting, but, I mean, we already have a vacuum over there.
Oh, we do?
That takes care of a little bit of carpeting in that hallway, if you can call it carpeting anymore, that's in that hallway.
Agreed, okay, okay, so we don't have to buy any.
I mean, if, for the seniors, if they want to be able to vacuum a little bit, because typically we only pay for the community center to be cleaned once a week, unless there's a rental, and then if there's a rental, then that's a pass-through cost on the renters. So, this is just strictly the town's costs of having it cleaned once a week. But, you know, we might look at a $150 vacuum to have that the seniors can use and not have to go over to the community center side of things and dig it out of the utility closet if they've got a small, something that got spilled on their
No,
carpet.
the seniors, they want their own.
They'll
And yes, I'm pretty sure, and they may find a grant for it, and then I'll have to find a place to store it, but that's okay.
I did And that 5,000 under building/rooms for the community center, I just threw that in there, David, because those long tables are beat up. They need to be replaced. Maybe, I don't know about a chair rack difference when we build a new story, so I don't know what number to help. I put help senior center furnishing, replace community center tables, but that could be really mostly just we're combining this fund with seniors and,
Yeah.
Part of the B&G, buildings and grounds.
Those long tables are pretty chewed up.
They're chewed up, they're past their time, I think, and as far as renovating, I know, Steve, we had talked about that recently on renovating the community center. That's gonna be a separate discussion on capital improvement projects.
Yeah. Electrical.
Yeah, they're gonna,
The electrical's built into the new senior center.
yeah, they're gonna upgrade the electrical.
That's right.
The electrical
It's a huge
for
box,
the
isn't it?
existing community center and the restrooms in the existing community center are built into the cost of the senior center addition. And the reason for that is we've got to do some work in the existing restrooms to make them ADA accessible.
Yeah.
And we're not adding restrooms to the senior portion of the building. They will be using those same restrooms. So we've got to bring that into code compliance at that time. And then we also talked to the electrical engineer about adding upgrading the electrical in there. We got Mike Evans involved in the conversation so he could explain exactly what was going on and what he thought needed to be done as somebody that understands the electrical side of things. So the other thing that we did with the electrical side of things on that senior center is we're actually adding 3 outdoor outlets under the eaves that we can add some spotlights for harvest days type things, so we won't have to use the light plants, but we could just set some lights along the edge of the building to light things up when we need to for the dance or beer garden and that kind of thing.
What about the flooring in the existing?
That's part of the capital improvements project that is a separate item. We are not doing, none of the renovations that we would all love to see happen over there are factored into the community, or into the senior center part. The only part that's factored into that is the electrical upgrade
In the bathroom?
and the bathrooms.
Okay.
So,
Makes sense.
we won't be doing anything in that entryway, we won't be doing anything in the hallway, any of that stuff, unless the board, through the capital improvement projects, allocate some funds for us to do that. And because of the grant from DOLA, we have to keep those 2 projects completely separate. We can't
Right.
even, we could have the same contractor do the work with the same tile that they did in the senior center, but it's got to be done after the senior center project's closed out.
After it's closed out, okay. So the flooring could be like the following year.
Well, it could still, they're talking in April, they're talking in the April finish for the April or May for the senior center. So we could do a mid to late summer renovation, or even a May to June renovation in the existing community center, if the board so chooses. So,
We'll go over that with the capital.
right, yeah, that's not for tonight's discussion, so.
The buildings, rooms, 5,000. Did you already go over that? That
That's,
must not have been listed.
that's the tables that Troy was talking about.
Oh,
possibly,
okay.
Possibly some additional furnishings in the senior center if needed.
Okay.
So,
I heard that.
it basically is just a, for lack of a better term, kind of a catch-all for some miscellaneous expenses that need to be expended over there. So, we're not doing rec at all tonight, right?
No,
Okay.
that's next Wednesday.
And I'm not doing seniors.
Museum.
So the museum, there again, we were talking about moving that to buildings and grounds. Basically, the only new line item that we would have to add to buildings and grounds would be security. Because currently, right now, we don't have any other security monitoring of any other buildings. We don't have a security system that's monitored anywhere but the museum, and then the library has their own that they There's a fire alarm system, and they did build a security into this building, but because it's occupied 24/7 with the police department being here, it never gets turned on because the police would set it off and they never remembered, if I turned it on, they would be in here and we'd be getting burglar alarms that Carl needed to, go into the main office or something. So, one of the other things when we just were discussing the security item and that kind of thing, under buildings and grounds, one of the things I talked with Troy about, and we haven't finalized where that would go, but our cameras that we have here at Town Hall are old, and that's putting it very nicely compared with the technology that we've got. These cameras are prehistoric, is the way that our consultant put it.
We could sell them as antiques.
They basically figured out a way to send a digital signal so that I can look at the cameras online, but they are all analog cameras. We have no zoom capability. We had somebody pull into the police parking lot and leave a deposit in the parking lot and leave the other day, but we couldn't zoom in to pull up a plate number or anything else.
To clarify, you had an upset stomach for unknown reason. I just wanted to clarify the deposit of that.
I was picturing something.
I know, I knew.
You gonna end up getting tattoos or anything we gotta do.
So but we weren't able to pull up a plate or anything like that. So I would like to, a really decent camera that actually pans around and gives us the ability to zoom in a block away type thing. It's somewhere between, $1,500 and $2,000 per unit. We have a total of, I want to say, 6 cameras here at Town Hall that are the old analog cameras. I'm not proposing in any way, shape, or form that we add those all to next year's budget, but Troy and I have talked about the possibility of adding 1 or 2 of them, upgrading them over the next handful of years so that we've got better cameras, better coverage, that kind of thing. So, I don't know if this is just, because we're talking about moving security to the buildings and grounds, that would be a line item that I would potentially add those numbers to. So, any other questions on museum?
Is there any weaknesses in the museum building that you anticipate we're gonna have to address? We've done furnace work, we've done the front doors.
We had the bricks patched up. That was done a couple years ago. They did that through a donation to I found the contractor. I'm not aware of anything, but typically, Mayor, if there is something that they observe, they let us know pretty quickly.
Like my phone rings, Todd phone rings, and then Troy's phone rings.
That building is that building turned of the last century, or is that a WPA building?
When you say WPA?
Depression.
1932 was the original building, and then you've got, I believe it's a 76 or 77 edition, where you actually enter the building now. That was the library in 1932.
Right.
Yes.
And then the new edition was done, was that 07? So that came in 08, it was already either 06 or 07? 05. 05, okay.
It's a building.
So, we're looking at 12 years old there. Nothing that I'm aware of that we have significant issues with right now.
One point, that building was built, and I said to the ladies earlier this year and going over the history, there's an elevator shaft that goes to the basement of the main building. That, according to them, they decided at the last minute to take that out of the door. There's no elevator going to the basement. My suggestion in the future, we look into that as a town, put an elevator for those ladies. Just a suggestion. I don't know what the cost would be, the shaft is there, but watching them go up and down those stairs is, it's an issue.
Was there ever anything in that shaft, or it was just, it's never been?
It was designed for an elevator, and then for some reason, they pulled those costs out of the budget.
for a single level, you'd run a hydraulic system.
Yeah, so I don't know, well, just something for the future. But I told them not to put anything for public view down there because of the ADA requirements, we can't, basically.
And they don't, it's all just storage right now, but that,
Same issue in the 32 room, the full basement full of public view items and no ADA exception.
So for the museum, you are projecting a budget decrease.
a budget what, I'm sorry?
Decrease.
I'm guessing.
You want to say?
Well, hey.
I never look at anything from
somewhere.
the right side of the decimal.
Fair enough.
But,
Dave can change that in just a
all right, so, moving right
So
along.
those are most of the general fund items, actually all the general fund items.
Is that something different? Some of this would be David's, some of this would not.
Other is, and I talked, Dave and I, Mr. Green and I talked about this earlier, we're gonna rename other. What it is really contingency and transfers. That's all it is. That's all you have. So,
We're just gonna call it contingency transfer.
yeah, we're gonna rename it. So the contingency is still 25, transfer for harvest days is 5. We have yet to talk about those, but I don't think we're there yet. I want you to see the bottom number, and I want you to see the harvest days. I just skip over that right now. I think the next one is cemetery. I was gonna ask for the, you want to go up to 8:30 tonight, if that's okay?
Fine by me.
Yeah, you're gonna hear an argument.
So we'll,
You hurt my feelings, you said 8 o'clock.
Right.
well, you know, it's two nights, you know, we canceled last night, but I told David in October, we're gonna have a follow with him and with Public Works, so, but, I'll remodify the schedule once things kind of settle down another aspect, so. For the cemetery fund, I think we should talk about tonight. If I can find it.
Speaking of which, it's what we're doing.
We have to go,
past all the libraries.
Forward or back?
Oh, past all the
Oh, past the
libraries,
library.
yeah. Get past the library.
There it is.
Speaking of cemetery, I was gonna ask about this, all the maintenance and everything for the new memorial, that's all gonna be covered by the cemetery fund? Or are we gonna put that in building and ground for the,
That's a good question. We need to talk about where that needs to go.
because we can't really, I mean, the cemetery can't afford it.
If we create a 50, if that's put made into a 501c3 to get an actually separate state.
You could do this, cemetery is a special revenue fund, so you're looking at adding another one, basically, what you're talking about.
We can just hire her.
Talking about, perpetual care fund for the memorial specifically, and, you know, the committee.
Oh, the committee.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
The committee said that some kind of perpetual care fund for
Right.
that.
I-
Then we don't want it set up like a perpetual care fund for the
No.
for the cemetery.
No.
Because it's basically a working fund. And I think if it's set up, then it
Here
has
it
to
is.
be set up to where town board is able to manage it, and make adjustments if needed. I mean, those are funds that are available to take care of it.
Absolutely. With that being said, is that going to stop for Mr. 501c3?
Who would be setting that up?
Why would it in the town, right? If it's the town's property.
I don't think the town would set up a
The reason it would be beneficial to have a 501c3 if there's lots of people who want to donate, but it's not 501c3.
But if the town takes in the donation
You'll fix it, like that.
to take care of it, then that's what it's. it's not
Nope.
taxable anyhow. I mean,
Well, it's
but
a 501c3,
you want,
it
you
would
want
be.
them to be able to write off the tax.
Exactly, because the problem I think that is happening right now is, yeah, people are, they're donating, their first question out of their mouth is,
Yeah, right.
it's 501c3. Right. Right now, we're, going in the direction of, you can advertise, because we're gonna take you on a wall, but I don't know how far that's
Can,
gonna go.
can the committee create that?
You would
Well,
have to,
that-
wouldn't they?
I don't know.
Well, right now, the town doesn't have its own, the seniors have done it, and the museum has done it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So then,
And they're separate from us,
Right.
even though they're under our umbrella.
yeah.
Right.
So if the committee created that,
right, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
I don't know how this will work, because with the seniors in the museum, we budget basically operational maintenance funds for them. And then we provide a senior coordinator, but they each have their own money.
Right.
So, and that's a point of discussion, if 501c3, they have their money, are they gonna be responsible for maintaining it, or are they gonna be donating money, revenue into us for maintenance? I don't know where that's gonna go yet.
Sure, right.
We have to figure that out.
Yeah.
If you're gonna be a 501c3, don't you have to incorporate
Yes,
before you do
yes,
that?
you absolutely do.
So you're gonna incur significant expense.
No, not necessarily.
501c3, when the museum ladies did it, was $400. I
Well,
don't know what it is now.
it's gonna depend on the kind of donation money that's coming through, as to what level.
I think it's around 700 for whatever we're going to be on that. It is right now.
And I mean, does the library and the seniors, do they pass the money then to the town to expend out of their 501c3s?
No.
Or do they make the expenditures themselves and deal with it themselves?
When we work with, as far as the seniors with Christie and Noreen and Dave Long, they get their grant funding from Will County. And then they do their own, basically fundraising, and they get their donations. So Noreen manages their checkbook.
Okay, so she
So-
expends the money.
Yeah, she expends the money, so when they get a grant, that goes to them. We only manage Christie and her activities, basically. I mean, we put money in there. A couple years ago, the town made a donation for them to buy chairs. They get grant money to buy the round tables last year. But they don't pass that to us money. They keep that.
Okay, so part of the problem there is if the town's keeping up that memorial, would it be legal for the 501c3 to give money to the town to do that?
So you run into this with fire departments a lot. Fire departments will have their own auxiliary or something like that, especially volunteer units. One across the street might even have one as well. But they have a fundraising arm that goes out and does that, and then when the department needs something, the 501c3 will either buy it for them or give them the money.
And they can do that, give it to the town?
Pretty prevalent with fire departments. I've seen that a number of times. And the fire department is a governmental entity,
Okay.
so.
As long as that's legal,
Sure.
to pass it through to the town to handle.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the main concern is, people donate to Harvest Days or whatever, they can write off to advertising, but other than a 501c3, you cannot legally write it off on your taxes as a charitable contribution. It's not a 501c3. Period. It can't even be a 501c3. It has to be a C3. So that's my concern.
Well, it's a good concern. I think if you want donations,
Right.
you want to have it.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. I just think that's probably absolutely.
The maintenance is going to be done by town personnel at the cemetery.
Well, right now, the cemetery is, we do a lot, town personnel does a lot of it, but we also, there's a contracted line item in here for, right now, we have Rock Solid Landscaping, who comes in and mows all the parks, including the cemetery, town hall, those kinds of things.
And that would be true of the memorial as well.
It would be if we have, and there are proposed some sodded areas and that kind of thing around the memorial. So yes, they would be doing that part unless the town opted, and I'm not making this recommendation at all, that we go back to doing all our own mowing and everything else at this point. I don't think we can afford to
At the
do
end
that.
of the day, you have control over the maintenance,
Correct, we do.
regardless of whether this committee makes contributions or not.
Well, at the end of the day, it's a town facility.
Right, that's my point.
Yeah.
Irrespective of finances, we
Right.
will fall
I mean,
on
you
us.
still have the ultimate control over seeing to it that the maintenance is done,
Yeah.
regardless of where the money may or may not be coming from.
Yes, sir.
Which I think is smart to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I
think the maintenance regarding, like David mentioned, the mowing and the weed, I think we can absorb that through Rock Solid, or whoever we contract with, on just a routine basis. But like with the committee, if they want to do their spring flower planting with the high school and stuff like that, that would be separate.
Right. But I guess, and I apologize for stepping out for just a second, a lot of coffee today. I would anticipate that once we have that done, the landscaping done, that Rock Solid will give me a slightly higher cost for doing the cemetery every week, because that would be factored in at the same time. So back to your question, Mike, and I don't know how this was answered while I was out of the room, but I would anticipate that there would be a slight increase in this cemetery budget, because that, in my mind, is the most reasonable place to put that.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, I kind of feel just put it under buildings and.
Buildings and grounds.
Yeah.
Well, and that,
You're
okay.
gonna have electrical bills.
Yeah, exactly.
All
So-
that stuff.
So, and that would be fine too, because it technically is not, I mean, if we're absorbing parks and everything else into the buildings and grounds, then yes, that would be the location to put it. I don't disagree with that. So, we would see, I don't anticipate that they would charge us, more than,
How many square feet are you guys planning on, or sod are they planning on putting up there, do we know?
Adrian, do you have any idea what that number is? Because I don't.
I believe it was 7,500 or right around there.
Okay.
One of the other things, I think we'll add a line item to B&G once we get those funds combined into buildings and grounds. And my suggestion is add a Veteran Memorial maintenance line item. Just because, and the committee does wonderful things as far as fundraising and so forth, but the maintenance themselves, if we have a big snowstorm between a funeral of a veteran, if we have a big dust storm, I want to send David Crew for a clean up. End of story.
And we do need to be able to track that specifically.
And we
agree with that.
We would like to have something, plus I think we need to put some money aside for a mobile podium, for some nice chairs, some white chairs that a lot of cemeteries have. So when you have a Marine or an Air Force or Navy, whatever, Army man up there at the shelter to do a ceremony, because you're gonna want the family to have a nice seating area and so forth. So we'll have to budget some money for that.
Is there gonna be additional engraving too as time goes on?
The 501c3 of the donations, they'll pay for that.
Well, yeah, I'm saying there's condition, there's maintenance, yeah.
Excuse me. So, if we put this in the B&G, then we can not bring this up here, but we need to have a separate conversation.
Sure.
So we'll come back to that tomorrow.
What's the bottom line look like?
Three expenditures with the decrease in the fund balance, $10,253.
So you're dipping into the starting fund.
Yeah.
We attribute that.
Well, 5,000 I have for Veteran Memorial.
looks to be pretty consistent. 5,000 with veterans memorial.
Take that out, so we put that in the agenda.
So it's not $5,200 decrease, $5,600.
The museum, is that one of the museum?
Sanitation.
We have a roll-off up there that we put old flowers, miscellaneous, you know, Christmas wreath, Christmas blankets, other things like that.
A roll-off?
Yeah. And you can see that number, you know, this year is about $2,100 that we have spent up there. Just on, plus we also keep a porta potty there year-round, so that's part of the sanitation cost. There's a porta john up there. I mean, I think that's an accessible porta john, and I think we're around $90 a month on that.
On the roll-off, how do they charge for those? Do you bill it every month?
We don't fill it every month, no.
Do they charge for the time of sitting there, or do they simply charge to come and get it and dump it?
For the most part, they just charge us when it gets dumped. And that's on the wait.
Right.
If it's a long period of time between dumps, then I see a rental fee for it sitting there and then not getting any income off of
Is it very much?
filling and dumping.
I guess if you do, so you do fill that roll-off 5 or 6 times?
4 to 5 times a year, yes.
Okay. Okay.
So,
I was just trying to make sure that a smaller bin wouldn't suffice.
we actually tried a smaller bin earlier this year, and we filled it so fast, and actually, we have people that take their flower pots and go dump them into the roll-off, and they were dumping them into the smaller bin, and they overfilled the smaller bin to a point that B and C couldn't pick it up. That kind of thing, so we got to hand unload that one. So, if we were up there on a monthly basis, cleaning things off, my phone would ring a lot more, because every time we do something, I get phone calls that those are fresh flowers we just threw away, and, you know, we just put those up there 9 months ago, and so they shouldn't be gone yet, you know? It is such, there have been times where Todd and I have discussed the option of him and I being the only ones that do any maintenance up there. Since we're gonna take the heat on what gets done, at least we'll know what got done and what I'm getting blamed for. But, I'm digressing, so, are there other questions on that one right now? Not much of it.
Yeah, let's go into conservation stuff, which is right there. No, there's not much to it, and basically, it's not really one of David's, and we kind of work on this together, but, use this for recreation, for board, for the ball field maintenance, and we also use it for Tree City Maintenance USA. We do our tree clearing, planting trees. Remember Tree City USA, so that number is based upon population. There's so much, or so many dollars per citizen that we have to spend. We're supposed to. So it's around $5,700.
We budget the full amount here, but some of the amount that gets credited towards our Tree City actually comes out of, like it'll be the B&G fund, but out of parks. Because if we trim a tree or remove a tree at a park and take it out of that, we can count it towards the Tree City funds, but some of that comes out of parks, M&R grounds, versus all of it coming out of here. We try to leave most of these funds for newer trees to be planted versus, but we make sure we hit the dollar value that we have to commit to be part of Tree City, the dollars per resident. that's why this number, you know, it's showing 4,000 projected right now out of this fund, and we need to be closer to the 5,600, but we have spent the other money in parks, M&R grounds on tree work, either removing dead trees or trimming some trees at the parks and doing some other work there. So we are expending the funds, but we try to make sure that we have a line item here that expends all those funds if we didn't do any tree work anywhere else.
And then, the other item is the recreation welcome maintenance, and I put a little note in there, field work on both fields and routine maintenance. Gordon, for a number of years now, they have not redone the infields with that, I call it topsoil, that's not what it is, but it's basically baseball infield soil. He gets quotes from Bigfoot, and it's been a number of years, and he's requesting to do that again, mostly on, I think, the east field, and then rebuild the mound on the west field. So the west field is, quote, the baseball field, the east field is the softball field. The infields are dimensionally different based upon the sport. If you've ever been out there, the west field has a much bigger dirt infield than the east field does. Plus it has a pitching mound, the east field is flat. Part of this is, you talked to David about getting quotes. We have dead patches because the irrigation doesn't hit the whole grass area around the infield, so they're gonna readjust those lines and heads. So that's what he's requesting. The conservation, the conservation trust fund some years ago was pretty depleted because we were taking mowing out of it from other things. We stopped doing that, we took that and put that somewhere else. This is actually going back up to where it actually is a pretty decent fund balance. So I told Gordon I would promote that increase for him because it's been 4 or 5 years since he's had those fields worked on.
Is that his special dirt?
That's his special dirt. That, it's the same dirt that's on Coors Field, and then, is what he tells me.
I love it with a wheelbarrow.
Like T-ball,
Line up our market.
Yeah. But that's really all, just those 2 line items. When this spreadsheet pulls up, you can see pretty much every line item discussed in years past, like soccer goals, Manila Dregs. The ball field signs was an item that we did probably 8 years ago. So, 6? So that's why those are listed on this spreadsheet, but those automatically pull up. I don't know if we can change that date or not, but sometimes it can be confusing.
We can try.
Because when we do the final budget, those are kind of hidden, right?
Yeah, those get hidden. So if we get over, this is just a worksheet, but if we got over into like this one, they'd be hidden.
Yeah.
So it's just pulling from there.
Gotcha.
Now, you come under the heading of ball field maintenance and all that stuff like that. Where does that four-wheeler come in? And who maintains that four-wheeler? I see it driven, I don't see it maintained.
You guys do.
We take care of it.
Yes, sir.
It gets an oil change and gone through once a year in the wintertime, January, February.
That was precisely what I wanted to
So
know. Thank you, I appreciate that.
it gets
I
done.
see him driving it, I just don't see it, but it's.
No, a lot of times the Napa bill gets split up between, if they buy oil for 3 different vehicles and they buy filters for, this, that, and the other thing. If it is a specific item that they write on it, that it was for the four-wheeler, then it goes to the rec fund.
Okay.
If it's just a generic Napa bill that I'm not 100% sure, then it gets split between all the public works funds for vehicle maintenance or equipment maintenance. So, the cost, Gordon grabs fuel out of the fuel tanks out here to put in a gas can to put into that four-wheeler. So I'm sure Public Works pays for all of the fuel that gets burned over there at the rec field, but that's a very small,
Yeah.
But One thing on the, going back to Conservation Trust Fund, on that 15,000, that projected 10,671 for this year, and I talked to Gordon, they're not gonna do anything else down at the ball fields. What we did a few years ago is I took all of his maintenance and repair for the ball fields out of the general fund, rec department fund. So he has nothing in the rec department fund. We take all of that out of this. So this also pays for sprinkler heads, having someone fix irrigation lines down there, fixing the fence, repairing the flagpole. So it's not just the ball fields themselves. Anything happened, maintenance to the dugouts, that's where we rebuilt the dugouts, roofs, as well. So if you look, when we talk about the rec fund, when Reggie Gordon comes next weekend, or next week, not weekend, that helps me. But you'll see there's no M&R for ball fields because we took it out of the general fund a few years ago and put it in here. So I just want to be fully explanatory on that.
Can you go back to the...
Well, yeah, talking about that, ball field, technically, we would just put those in buildings and grounds.
Conservation Trust has its own source.
We can't, okay.
Yeah, we can't mingle those, we gotta have it separate one, cover it.
You know, there's some statutory falls to it.
We have to do reporting on it as well to the state every year that.
So we talked earlier about going after some GO programs for like a splash park or whatever, are we not planning on doing that?
I hadn't talked about capital projects yet,
Gotcha.
so, but yeah.
And a GO grant would fall into the general fund or some other fund.
So this conservation trust fund with the GO grant is different?
In the years past, they had, I think it was a skate park.
Oh,
I think it was a skate park many years ago, we did. And from my understanding from the former finance director, and I think it was in Maryland years ago, that conservation trust comes from lottery funds. GOCO is lottery money, so it was justified to use conservation trust funds as matching funds for GOCO grant.
gotcha.
Could very well be, but
So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, this is, the revenue for this one really should be just 4 payments a year from the state. It comes quarterly, it's lottery money,
Lottery money.
and then interest, and that's it.
Okay,
and like Teresa, USA is based on population.
sure,
So unless we grow that number, we'll never do it.
right.
So,
Okay, please.
I think we'll wrap up with use tax, which is the very next one, if you don't mind. Again, this is kind of shared by David and I together. Mostly it's David's because it's really parks. Looking at revenues on use tax, the use tax comes from the 1% from building permit. We're a little bit lagging this year for building permits, but I'm hoping we can meet budget in the fall. There's been a lot of accessory uses and stuff, but nothing new. Willow Creek is going to do their site plan. It's not a building, but they're going to be paying some building permit fees. TJT's going to finish their site plan over here down the street. And then I know there's a lot of talk about, from Melissa, about accessory uses in garages and structures. So any building permit is revenue for this fund. This years ago also was a match for a drug program as well. So use tax funds. But right now, about 100,000 in fund balance. But if you look at this year, I'm gonna explain this. If you go to projected this year, the 55,000, that's where I put the money that the board just approved. The 30,468.71 has already been spent for miscellaneous items, and Dave can give us the detailed ledger, but that's for a lot of different items, picnic tables and other stuff. So, you can check my numbers, Dave, or David, but that was for the concrete at Rogers Farm.
The basketball pad.
The basketball pad, the fence at Rogers Farm, and what else I put in there?
Does that include the fence up here at the fire department?
Nope. Well, it might be,
Saying it says town hall.
Yeah, it does. So those 3 items.
So,
Because the concrete work for the repairs and reuse separate, that's sidewalk.
Yeah, that should go to the sidewalk.
So if that number's right, then I think that's where it's about 25,000 total.
I would have to, I don't have those with me right this second, so I'm not positive.
So moving over, Dave, if you would, scoot over to 2018. What I did is I put the high estimate from that one bid the board wanted to table till next spring. I just put that in the budget. If you want me to do something else, I will. But I didn't know how to do that right now. That was for the irrigation sod along Circle, but most of that new section of Rogers Farm Park.
Yeah, we would be done in the spring.
Yeah.
We still have one AC above us, above the boardroom, that has not collapsed yet, but all the others have been replaced, so we just put that as a contingency, so it's budgeted. Otherwise, the other 30,000 is the mowing contract that Dave manages. David manages. Anything you think of it?
You're putting on equipment 18.
What's that?
Mowing contract, you said there's nothing budgeted here for 18.
Well, that's Coronado Park improvements, so we need to talk about that capital project, the 30th.
There it is.
That Coronado Park improvement, we budgeted some money this year, but once the surveying, which I didn't think of, was completed, plus the initial engineer design, that gobbled up that money. So it took 14 of the 30,000. The estimate I have to give you is about 55,000 in that parking lot. So we'll talk about that during the capital project discussion.
So use tax fund is projected to have $65,000 in at the end of 2018.
If revenues and expenditures come, are basically active numbers.
Let's say like 18 months worth of projection. We got to project out the end of 17.
Sure. So any questions on use tax? The conservation trust and use tax really don't have a lot of line items. It looks big, but when you let it, it's really not. It's only a handful of line items in each one.
So we are slowly but surely lowering that account year over year. Well, no, I guess not, that's not,
No,
just over last year.
Yeah, it fluctuates. Last year, we had a big revenue year from some building permits.
Yeah, yeah, I see that now. That was Rogers Farm?
If you go back to 15 and 14, we had a big influx too, it's just not showing here. But yeah, Rogers Farm. 2013, we had a big boom because Anadarko. But recently, going into 2018, I'm not anticipating a lot. Actually, when the, like our impact fees, I usually budget one permit. This year, I'm gonna take those out. We have nothing new to build. You know. So that's, I think, all we have for tonight. That's okay with the board. Next Wednesday, you wanna stay longer?
I knew I heard that.
Have at it.
By myself, huh?
So real quick, next Tuesday is recommending the board on the 19th, which is next Tuesday. Mary, do you remember anything on the agenda we need to talk about? Public hearing for a site up by Sodbuster on County 38. They're,
Oh, yeah.
it's a public hearing, so it's a planning commission, immediately followed by a board meeting. 6:30 PC, 7 o'clock board, back to back. Legal counsel advised we're not doing any more joint meetings anymore, so we're going to be back to back. Just for clarity of,
Legal counsel does not
Legal.
enjoy joint meetings.
well, we're just trying to make one presentation instead of two, or that's regardless. That's the main thing. And then next Wednesday at 6:30 back here, we'll finish the rest of the general fund, which will be Carl, Christie, Reggie Gordon, Mary and myself. And then we'll go back to special revenue funds the last Wednesday with Diane, and I may bring Dave back to that time.
Works for me. You all are excused.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Are we good, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, everyone. When you get light bulbs, either we do a light bulb or we do.
Oh,
Your boyfriend.
yeah, it was great, man, I enjoyed the heck out of it.
That's not good.